We begin with the fourth questions, the Mayor. Town Council responsibilities lie in providing governance structure of the municipality, accountability and transparency with operations and financial management of the municipalities. Developers' responsibilities lie in designing, building, and providing growth opportunities. If elected, what would you do to ensure Town Council and developers work in harmony with each other for the betterment of Fort Erie? Mr. Redekop, you'll start.
Well, actually, the municipality has a bit more responsibility. They're responsible for approving applications, and so the first thing the municipality needs to do is make sure that we've got a streamlined application process. It's very confusing now. It can be burdensome, and so we need to work with the region to make sure that we've clarified that. Second thing we need to do is make sure that we have the infrastructure in place for development to take place. And we've heard since I was the mayor 10 years ago about shovel-ready. Well, we still don't have shovel-ready industrial land, and what we need to do is make that investment. There's no sense in us going out beating the bushes trying to attract development and investment unless we've got the land that's available for those developers and investors to come to this town. We'll recoup that investment once the developers start to build the buildings and the manufacturers show up. The final thing we need to do is make sure that developers understand the significant location that we have. We are the greatest spot for businesses that need markets to the U.S. and Canada.
Well, first of all, I would slap on my sales face and wear a nice clean suit and go out and knock on doors and oh, I am sorry. My name is Mike Kluche. I'm a candidate for mayor in the town of Fort Erie. We have to make preparations in advance for preparing land and in streamlining the process for development approvals to take place. I want to provide for the public a stronger communication so that people understand more fully what is being proposed when the proposals come through. I believe that good, solid information among the people will ease opposition among the public. I want to take a look at the fees that they're being paid for development approvals, and I want to look at ways that we can give breaks on the upfront charges that they have to pay, such as development charges. Thank you.
Dean DiMizio. What would I do to help harmonize the relationship? Well, if you were there last week in Stevensville, I mentioned about getting a town liaison for a developer coming in, saying, you're assigned to John Doe developer. I want you to walk them through the process. Hopefully at the end we've signed a deal and they've become part of our community. But if not, let's shake hands and say, maybe the next time will work. We need to have a better working relationship with these developers. Time is money. You have to realize time is money. When I did my launch speech in August, I talked about that cartoon Peanuts where Lucy would hold the football for Charlie Brown and pull it out at the last minute. I think that's what a lot of developers feel Fort Erie is. They're going to line up for the football and it's going to be yanked at the last second. We have to change the way developers and people in general view Fort Erie. And that's going to start with strong leadership, a mayor like myself, Dean DiMizio. Thank you.
I agree with everyone that we have to streamline the process. We have to have clear information right from the beginning so the developer knows what's expected of him and what's expected of us, and what we are planning on delivering and what we are expecting them to deliver. We need to make sure that our town is a place they want to develop, that our fees and our taxes are affordable and attractive. These can be attractors or they can be detractors. We must make sure that they want to come to our town. We should put someone in, when someone comes to the town, they should have a timeline and an expectation on who to go to, who's their go-to person, someone that will take their hand, walk them through the process, both on the town level and then help them with other levels of government where the approvals are also required. Thank you.
Over the past 4 years, there have been many improvements made to streamline the process at Town Hall. Quite simply, one of our detriments is we don't have enough staff being involved in the process itself. I was approached at the Ridgeway Farmers Market this past weekend by a developer who has $100 million worth of development projects in the pipeline that he's looking to bring to this community. But his building permits are sitting on somebody's desk because they can't get to them fast enough. That's not his fault, and that's not the staff person's fault. There's simply an abundance, which is a very positive thing for us. It's a great problem to have, but we need to invest in those staff resources. It's never a popular thing to sit up here as a candidate and say we need more staff. I know that some people champion the exact opposite, but I can tell you from my current experience in the past 4 years, we have great people, but we need a few more of them. There are opportunities coming, but if we don't seize them, they'll find somebody else who will.
John Teal.
Mr. Teal, I'm just going to read the question for everyone.
Go ahead, sorry.
How do you balance your representation of the issues and needs of Fort Erie with the demands and wants of other parts of Niagara? When you're set.
John Teal, your regional counselor. Yeah, this is a good question. The region is a big place. It's 12 municipalities, and you have to keep in mind that you have to look at the big picture, which I'm capable of doing and have done over the years. Balancing the needs of Fort Erie, yes, it's about building relationships with the other councilors. Fort Erie has 2 votes on a 30-man council. You've got to get 16 votes if you want something for Fort Erie, and the other municipalities need to get 16 votes. So it's a question of building relationships, knowing when to support and what to support. So I've been very adept at that over the years, and I know I'll continue to do that for you and for the rest of the region.
Well, thank you for the question. I think the first thing that I attempted to do at the start of this campaign was to educate the electorate, educate the voters as far as what the role of regional council does. 44% of your property tax bill goes to the region. That's a lot of money. Only 38% goes to the town of Fort Erie. It provides public services, critical public services. And again, you have to weigh the balance of the needs of Fort Erie with your regional colleagues. Now, Niagara is made up of 12 municipalities, but one thing I know for sure, having lived here my whole life, out of the 12 municipalities, there is no municipality that provides more opportunity from our geographic location, our amenities, our passionate people than Fort Erie. You'll have a strong voice at the region if I'm elected, and I'll make sure that I'm there to attend to your needs.
Ray Murray. We will come first, lobbying at the region level. That's what I do best. I've been lobbying all my life. I've spent a lifetime working with people. This will become invaluable at the region level. I will be there to persuade, encourage, work with our associate regional councilors to provide the best bang for the buck for the town of Fort Erie. I promise you that.
Bob Steckley. As a ward councillor, my first obligation, I felt, was to Ward 3. They were the people that elected me. Secondly, my obligation was to Fort Erie. But when considering events, I would think first, how is this going to affect my ward? If elected to the region, it would be no different. My first duty would be Fort Erie. How is this going to affect Fort Erie? Is this good for Fort Erie? You're my first focus. Secondly would be, how is this going to affect the rest of the region? Our job is to look out for Fort Erie. As you heard, we have 2 votes, only 2 votes. We need to make sure we have strong representation there so that Fort Erie's voice is heard, understood, and looked after. Thank you.
Sure.
I can start this one, right? I start.
Give me a second. Mr. Cloutier, you'll start this question. The last question to the mayor candidates. If elected mayor, what 2 priorities or challenges do you feel first need to be addressed by council?
Mike Cloutier, candidate for mayor in the town of Fort Erie. The number one thing that must be fixed in the town of Fort Erie is this incredible crisis of confidence in the town council. I intend to bring a stable framework in which commerce and life and recreation can take place in this town. And I want jobs in this town. I have a whole list of ideas about creating jobs in my closing speech. But those are the 2 top priorities. Thank you.
Dean DiMizio. I think my first priority is in my slogan, moving forward with confidence. And it's not just moving town council with confidence, it's moving us forward with confidence as a community. We've been kicked and knocked down so many times. We're not sure that we can compete out there in the market. And as mayor, I want to lead the charge. Wherever we need to go, I want to lead council. I want to lead the community. I want to be your voice. And behind me, as we move forward, you're going to have the confidence. The next thing that I think is a priority is the Canadian Motor Speedway. We need to get that in the ground. We need to get that moving. It's what I call an economic generator. It's going to start the economy again in Fort Erie with so much spin-off. You'll see spin-off at the racetrack development. You'll see R&D spin-off. You'll see we're suddenly going to be on the global map. So those are my priorities, and that's why please vote for Dean DiMizio for next mayor. Thank you.
Anne Marie Noyes. If elected mayor, I think one of the first priorities I would be looking at is filling the senior staff positions that are currently vacant. When we don't have the right staff in place, we're not able to do the work that's necessary. We are not able to meet the demands of the developers and the taxpayers. We need to fill those staff positions and work on the relationship between staff and council. Once we have our new staff, we need to retain them, and we need to support our existing staff so that they will not move on. The second is, again, improving communications and our image with our taxpayers here in Fort Erie, with the region, and the rest of the province. Our image has suffered over the past few years. We need to work on it. It needs to be a priority. Thank you.
Stephen Passero. The first priority would be informing a new council. The way I see things shaping up, I think there will be some change. An informed council, I believe, makes informed decisions. I bring that continuity to Town Hall. I've been there for 4 years. I'm not a stranger to the staff. I know all their names. I know the developers. I know the stakeholders. I know the players. I won't have to dust off my Rolodex on that first day. As far as challenges go, our main challenge is provincially significant wetland designation. We have employment-designated lands. We have companies that want to come to Fort Erie, but we have nowhere to put them. I will work with the province to look at easing the restrictions on PSW designations within those employment lands only. I am the mayoral candidate that can work with whomever is in power at Queen's Park, and that will be my first phone call the day after I'm elected. Thank you.
I happen to know the Minister of Municipal Affairs. He was part of the 5-man team that negotiated with the province to bring slot revenues to the racetrack communities. His name is Ted McMeekin, and I speak to him fairly regularly. The first thing that we need to do is start to bring this community together. And we can do that by making sure that council and staff work together and that they act in a professional manner in an open and accessible town hall, acting professionally, accountably, and responsive to the needs of the residents and the people that we do business with. Second thing we need to do, and I've mentioned it before, we need to reach out to the developers, the investors, and the senior public servants. Get them to take another look at this municipality, because the reality is people have been spooked. This is a dangerous place for a lot of people. They see dragons here. So we need to work on that, and when I become the mayor, we will do that. We'll bring back development, investment, new residents, and we'll bring in top senior public servants.
The final question to the regional candidates. Mr. Nunziata, you will start when I'm finished. What is your personal opinion of the concept of One Niagara or some form of amalgamation?
Sandy Nunziata. Well, I think we do need governance reforms, but I don't know what those reforms will look like without first hearing from the voters. Now, I'd rather focus on something that most of us would agree upon, and that's democratic reforms. Now, I do like the idea of ranked balloting. At least it provides more civility between candidates. But I would suggest the democratic reforms suggested by Premier Wynne this past week don't go far enough. I think they should also include a recall system with a way of removing politicians who have broken the public's trust, misused public funds, and do so with as little expense to the taxpayers as possible. I do believe 150 politicians for a population of 430,000 is a little excessive. I'm not a big fan of parochialism. I don't think you have opportunity to move your agenda when everyone is speaking in a different voice.
Ray Murray. One Niagara is a loaded question. We need to have representation that's open-minded and works well with everyone at the region. For us to be in a One Niagara, I'm afraid we would probably fall to the wayside. We have to continue to push forward, work hard, build great relationships, and away we go. We'll be a flourishing town of Fort Erie. Thank you.
Bob Steckley. Flat out, I'm opposed to an amalgamation of a One Niagara. Amalgamation was forced on the town of Fort Erie a number of years ago. The communities of Crystal Beach, Ridgeway, Stevensville, and Fort Erie were forced to amalgamate under the town of Fort Erie banner. The smaller communities are still feeling left out from that amalgamation, and what are we? 40 years later. If Niagara Region amalgamates into the town of Niagara or the city of Niagara, the small communities, Port Colborne, Wainfleet, Fort Erie, we're going to be feeling left out, just as the smaller communities of Fort Erie feel. You know what? If you're in favor of a One Niagara, don't vote Bob Steckley, because I am opposed to it.
John Teal, Regional Councilor. I'm starting to worry because I'm starting to agree with Bob on a few things. I am opposed to One Niagara. I always have been. We reviewed this at the region when we discussed governance. We concluded the public has no appetite for One Niagara. But now there's a new recognition with this council in the last term of what I always knew Niagara to be, a political affiliation of 12 very distinct and different municipalities. It works best when the region is an equal partner with those municipalities and a facilitator to their independent development. Thank you.